Wealthy CEO tried to shame ex at Fundraiser, but discovered secret twins he never knew existed. Mama? Mama, where's the bathroom? The small voice cut through the tension like a blade through silk. Billionaire Maximiliano Cortez turned to see a little girl, perhaps 4 years old, tugging at his ex-lover's gown. She had dark curls and amber eyes that were startlingly familiar. His eyes, the same unusual golden brown that had been passed down through generations of Cortez men. "Just a moment, mi amor," Catalina said softly, kneeling to the child's level. Before she could say more, another child appeared, an identical twin, same dark curls, same golden eyes, same heart-stopping resemblance to the man who was staring at them in complete shock. Isabella found the chocolate fountain, the second girl announced. "She got chocolate on her dress, but Mrs. Valdez says it's okay because it's washable." Max's world tilted off its axis. His voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. "Catalina, are they?" Her face had gone pale, but her chin lifted with defiant pride. "They're mine. You gave up any claim to them when you told me to handle the situation. Welcome Deluxe Love Chronicles with Mr. Wentworth. I'm your host, and I want to start by saying thank you. We're currently building an incredible community of storytellers and dreamers, and every single one of you means the world to me. Your support, your comments, your shares, they fuel these stories that I'm passionate about bringing to you. Before we dive into today's story, I want to say a quick prayer for all of you, my beloved viewers. Heavenly Father, I ask that you bless each person watching this video today. Grant them peace in their hearts, strength for their challenges, and wisdom in their decisions. Surround them with love, protect their families, and guide them toward the abundant life you have planned for them. May they find joy in the simple moments and courage to pursue what truly matters. Amen. Now, let's dive into a story that will challenge everything you think you know about power, pride, and the price of putting success before the people who matter most. The grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel glittered with Manhattan's elite, crystal chandeliers casting diamonds of light across designer gowns and perfectly tailored tuxedos. At the center of it all stood Maximiliano Cortez, adjusting his platinum watch, a limited edition Patek Philippe worth more than most people's annual salary, as he surveyed his domain with predatory satisfaction. At 39, Max commanded a financial empire worth $2.3 billion. His investment firm controlled assets that could topple governments or build them. Politicians sought his favor, socialites vied for his attention, and business rivals watched his every move with careful calculation. Mr. Cortez, his assistant Trevor approached with practiced efficiency. "The mayor wants a word about the infrastructure project, and Senator Williams is asking about your position on the banking regulations." "Tell them I'll find them later," Max replied, his voice carrying the authority of a man accustomed to being obeyed. Tonight is about being seen supporting the right causes. The Mental Health Awareness Fundraiser was his stage tonight, and he was the undisputed king holding court. Everything was exactly as it should be, until she walked in. Catalina Moreau moved through the crowd like liquid silk, her midnight blue gown hugging curves that had haunted his dreams for 3 torturous years. Her raven black hair cascaded in loose waves over bare shoulders, and those emerald eyes that had once looked at him with devotion now held cool indifference as she surveyed the opulent gathering. Rage and desire collided in his chest with devastating force. She had some nerve showing up here, at his event, in his world, after the way she'd humiliated him, after she'd walked away from everything he'd offered her, everything they'd built together. Well, he murmured to Trevor, who had followed his gaze and visibly winced. Look what the cat dragged in. Everyone in their circle knew the story, or thought they did. The brilliant, ruthless Maximiliano Cortez, brought low by a social worker who'd chosen principle over privilege. "Sir, perhaps we should." "No," Max's voice carried lethal softness. "I think it's time Ms. Morrow learned exactly where she stands in this world." He moved through the crowd with the confidence of a man who owned everything he surveyed, guests parting before him like the Red Sea. Catalina was examining a silent auction display, children's art from the very community center she'd chosen over him, and she didn't see him approaching until his shadow fell across her. "Slumming it tonight, are we?" His voice carried just enough volume to draw attention from nearby guests. She turned slowly, and for just a moment, He caught something vulnerable in those green depths before they hardened to jade ice. Maximiliano, still buying your way into heaven, I see. At least I can afford the admission fee. He let his gaze sweep over her dismissively, though every cell in his body was screaming with recognition, with want. Tell me, how exactly does someone on a social worker's salary afford a gown like that? Or did you finally wise up and find yourself a proper benefactor? Color flooded her cheeks, but her voice remained steady. Some of us have friends who don't measure relationships by bank account balances. Friends. He laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut glass. Several nearby conversations had paused, society vultures sensing blood in the water. Is that what we're calling it? How refreshingly honest. Though I have to say, your friend has excellent taste. That dress would look stunning on the floor of a penthouse bedroom. You're disgusting. Her voice was low, meant only for him, but he could see the humiliation burning in her eyes. I'm honest. Something you never learned to appreciate. He stepped closer, close enough to catch the jasmine scent that still made his pulse race. Tell me, Catalina, was it worth it? All that righteous indignation? All those noble principles? How's that working out for you? Better than you'd imagine. Really? Because from where I'm standing, you look like a woman who made a very expensive mistake. His voice dropped to a purr that only she could hear. You could have had everything. Designer clothes in your own closet instead of borrowed ones. Cars that don't break down. A man who could give you the world instead of whatever bargain basement replacement you've settled for. I have everything I need. Do you? He leaned closer, his breath ghosting against her ear. Do you really? Because I remember a woman who used to arch beneath me like her very soul depended on my touch. I remember how you'd whisper my name like a prayer when I made you come apart in my arms. Tell me, does your current situation satisfy you the way I used to? She stepped back sharply, her face flushed with anger and something else, something that looked dangerously like arousal. You have no right. I have every right. You were mine, Catalina, body and soul, and you threw it all away for what? A few dozen ungrateful children who'll never appreciate the sacrifices you've made. Those children matter more than your ego. Those children will forget your name the moment you're gone. I never would have. The admission slipped out before he could stop it, raw and honest in a way that made them both freeze. For a moment, the ballroom around them faded, and they were just two people staring at the wreckage of what they'd once had. If you've ever had someone try to make you feel small, comment below and let me know how you handled it. Your story might inspire someone else. That's when the small voice cut through their tension like a blade through silk. Mama? Mama, where's the bathroom? Max turned to see a little girl, perhaps 4 years old, tugging at the skirt of Catalina's gown. She had Catalina's dark hair but amber eyes that were startlingly familiar, his eyes, the same unusual golden brown that had been passed down through generations of Cortez men. Just a moment, mi amor, Catalina said softly, her entire demeanor transforming as she knelt to the child's level. Mrs. Valdez will take you. Remember what I told you about staying close. See, Mama. The little girl's gaze found Max, studying him with unnerving intensity. Who's the tall man? Before Catalina could answer, another child appeared, an identical twin, same dark curls, same golden eyes, same heart-stopping resemblance to the man who was staring at them in complete shock. Isabella found the chocolate fountain, the second girl announced importantly. She got chocolate on her dress, but Mrs. Valdez says it's okay because it's washable. Max's world tilted off its axis. The timeline was devastating in its simplicity. The girls looked to be 4, maybe 5 years old. Catalina had left him 4.5 years ago. The math was inescapable, brutal in its clarity. Catalina. His voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. Are they? Her face had gone pale, but her chin lifted with defiant pride. Girls, go find Mrs. Valdez. Now. But Mama, now Isabella. Take Esperanza with you. The twins scampered away, chattering in rapid Spanish, leaving their parents in a bubble of shocked silence while the fundraiser continued around them, oblivious to the seismic shift occurring in their midst. They're mine. It wasn't a question. They're mine, she corrected fiercely. You gave up any claim to them when you told me to handle the situation. The memory hit him like a physical blow. That terrible fight 4.5 years ago, when she'd come to his office glowing with joy, saying she had news that would change everything. He'd been in the middle of a hostile takeover, billions on the line, and when she'd told him she was pregnant, his first reaction had been cold calculation, not celebration. I never said, you said children would complicate the acquisition, that it wasn't the right time, that there were options we should consider. Her voice was steady now, clinical. You talked about termination like it was a line item in a business plan. I was scared, he said weakly. The timing was perfect. I was 26, healthy, madly in love with a man I thought loved me back. But you saw a problem to be solved, an inconvenience to be managed. If you'd told me there were twins, I didn't know then. I found out at the 12-week ultrasound. Alone. The word carried years of pain. Because by then, you'd made it clear how you felt about the situation. So you decided for both of us. You decided I didn't deserve to know I had daughters. I decided they didn't deserve a father who saw them as mistakes. The words hit their mark because they carry truth. He had seen the pregnancy as a complication, a deviation from his carefully orchestrated plans. He'd been building toward the Meridian acquisition, positioning himself for global dominance, and babies, hadn't fit his timeline. I could have learned. I could have what? Hired nannies to raise them while you conquered the world? Scheduled quality time between board meetings. Her green eyes blazed with old hurt. I know you, Max. I know how you love, with conditions, with expectations, with one eye always on the exit strategy. That's not fair. Fair? Her laugh was bitter. You want to talk about fair? Fair was carrying twins alone while the man I loved made me feel like a burden. Fair was going through labor by myself because I was too proud to call you. Fair was 18-hour days at the community center while pregnant because I had to prove I could handle everything alone. Each word was a dagger, expertly placed to find every vulnerability in his armor. I would have taken care of you. Both of you. All of you. You would have managed us. There's a difference. Mrs. Valdez, an elderly woman with kind eyes, approached hesitantly. Perdón, mija, but the girls are asking for you. And little Isabella had an accident with the chocolate. I'll be right there. Catalina turned back to Max, her expression guarded. This conversation is over. Like hell it is. He caught her arm gently, careful not to hurt her, but firm enough to stop her retreat. The contact sent electricity shooting through his system. Her skin was still silk-soft, still warm enough to burn. We need to talk. Really talk. There's nothing to discuss. I have daughters, Catalina. Daughters I've never met, never held, never even knew existed. You can't drop that bomb and walk away. I can do whatever I want. They're my children. Our children. No. She pulled free of his grip, but he caught the way her breath hitched at his touch, the way color flooded her cheeks. The chemistry between them was still there, still devastating in its intensity. You signed away that right when you chose your merger over your family. I was 28 years old and terrified of losing everything I'd worked for. And I was 26 and terrified of losing the man I loved. But I was willing to risk everything for us. You weren't. The accusation hung between them like a blade. Around them, the fundraiser continued, champagne flowing, checks being written, society playing its eternal games of power and perception. But in their private bubble of pain and revelation, nothing else existed. What are their names? He asked quietly. She hesitated, then answered. Isabella Catalina and Esperanza Luz. Beautiful names. No mention of their father, I notice. They know their father lives far away and can't be part of their lives. I've never spoken badly of you, if that's what you're worried about. The generosity of that admission shamed him. Do they ask about me? Sometimes. Usually when they see other children with their daddies. Pain flickered across her features. I tell them that families come in all shapes, that what matters is love, not structure. But they want to know. Of course they do. They're smart, perceptive children. They've figured out that other kids have fathers who come to school plays and birthday parties. Guilt twisted in his chest like a living thing. I want to meet them. Properly. I want to be their father. You can't just decide to be a parent when it's convenient, Max. Children need consistency, reliability. They need someone who chooses them every day, not just when it fits your acquisition schedule. I can change. Can you? Can you really? Her voice carried the weight of old disappointments. Because I remember a man who canceled dinner for conference calls, who missed my birthday for a business trip, who treated every moment together like time stolen from more important things. Building the company was for us. Building the company was for you. For your need to prove you were worthy of the Cortez name, to show your father's ghost that you could surpass everything he'd achieved. Her insight was surgical in its precision. I was supposed to be grateful for whatever attention you had left over. That's not how I saw it. How did you see it? He struggled to find words for feelings he'd spent years burying. I saw a woman who was too good for me. Too pure, too idealistic. I thought if I could just achieve enough, accumulate enough power, I might deserve you. I never asked you to deserve me. I asked you to choose me. I didn't know how. Love was always conditional in my family. You earned it through achievement, through making the family proud. I'd never learned to give it freely. So you gave me everything except what I actually wanted, which was you. Just you. Not your money or your connections or your grand gestures. Just the man I fell in love with, present and accounted for. Mrs. Valdez cleared her throat politely. Perdón again, but Isabella is asking for her mama. She's getting upset. I have to go, Catalina said, but Max caught something in her expression, a flicker of the old softness, quickly suppressed. Have dinner with me. Tomorrow night. Let me try to explain, Max, please. Not as the mother of my children, not as my ex-lover. As the woman who once cared enough to try to save us. His voice dropped to the intimate register that had once been able to melt her defenses. One dinner. Let me try to make you understand what losing you cost me. She studied his face for a long moment, searching for something. One dinner. But not at Le Bernardin or Daniel or any of those places where you think expensive wine will impress me. Somewhere normal. Somewhere real. Casa Valdez on 47th Street. He named a small Dominican place they discovered together years ago, family-owned and authentically delicious. Surprise flickered in her eyes that he remembered. 8 o'clock. Thank you. She nodded curtly and started to leave, then paused. And Max? Don't think this changes anything. One dinner doesn't erase 4 years of abandonment. As she walked away, hips swaying in that devastating gown, Max felt something fundamental shift inside his chest. For the first time in his adult life, he'd encountered a situation that couldn't be resolved with money or intimidation or sheer force of will. He'd found the 3 most important people in the world, and he had absolutely no idea how to win them back. But he was going to try. He had to. Because somewhere across town, 2 little girls were sleeping who carried his eyes and his stubborn pride, and they deserved a father who would choose them over everything else in the world. And their mother, brilliant, beautiful, wounded Catalina, deserved a man who understood that love wasn't about possession or control, but about presence and commitment and the terrifying vulnerability of putting another person's happiness before your own ambitions. He was going to become that man. Starting tomorrow night. Share this story if you believe it's never too late to fight for the people who matter most. And stick around because in part 2, we'll see if a man who built an empire can learn to build a family instead. Casa Valdez hadn't changed in 4 years. The same warm yellow walls covered with family photos, the same plastic-covered tables, the same elderly Dominican man behind the counter who treated every customer like extended family. Max arrived 20 minutes early, his usual punctuality now feeling less like efficiency and more like barely contained anxiety. He'd spent the intervening day in a strange fog, going through the motions of running his empire while his mind remained fixed on emerald eyes and twin girls with his golden gaze. His assistant had fielded calls about the upcoming Singapore expansion, the quarterly board meeting, the merger discussions with that tech startup in Austin. All of it felt distant, unreal, like someone else's life he was watching from the outside. Mr. Cortez? Trevor had asked that afternoon, concern evident in his voice. The Yamamoto representatives are waiting for your decision on the Tokyo project. It's worth $300 million. Max had stared out his office window at the city sprawling below, thinking about 2 little girls he'd never met. Postpone it. Sir, I said postpone it. Everything can wait until next week. Catalina entered exactly at 8, and his breath caught. Gone was the borrowed elegance of the night before. Tonight she wore simple black jeans that hugged her curves and a soft green blouse that made her eyes look like jewels. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she wore no makeup beyond a touch of lip gloss. She was more beautiful than ever. You came, he said, standing as she approached. I said I would. She slipped into the booth across from him, maintaining careful distance but not the Arctic chill of last night. You always kept your word. The admission slipped out before he could stop it, even when I didn't deserve it. Something flickered in her expression, surprise, maybe, at his honesty. Tell me about them, he said quietly. About their births, their personalities, everything I missed. Why? So you can catalog your failures and feel sorry for yourself? So I can understand who they are. So I can learn to be the father they deserve, if you'll let me try. The directness of it seemed to catch her off guard. She studied his face, looking for deception or manipulation, but finding only raw honesty. They were born at 37 weeks, she said finally. Small but perfectly healthy. Isabella came first, already making demands. She had a very particular cry that meant, I require immediate attention. Esperanza followed 15 minutes later, so quiet the nurses had to make sure she was breathing properly. Were you scared? Terrified? I'd never felt so alone in my life. The admission was quietly devastating. But the moment I held them, everything else disappeared. They were mine to protect, mine to love, and suddenly I understood what real strength felt like. What are they like now? A genuine smile ghosted across her lips, the first real one he'd seen from her. Isabella is determined. She knows exactly what she wants and isn't shy about expressing it. Last month she organized the other kids at daycare into a protest because they wanted chocolate milk instead of regular milk. Despite everything, Max found himself smiling. Sounds familiar. She gets that from you, the absolute conviction that the world should bend to her will. But there was fondness in her voice, not criticism. Esperanza is quieter, more thoughtful. She notices everything, remembers everything. She's the one who comforts other children when they're sad, who shares her snacks without being asked. Do they know about me? About their father? The smile faded. They know their daddy lives far away and has important work that keeps him busy. I've told them that someday, when they're older, they might meet him. Have you shown them pictures? A few. Old ones, from before. She trailed off, then seemed to gather herself. They've seen photos of us together. Happy photos. I wanted them to know they were conceived in love, even if that love didn't last. The generosity of that gesture humbled him completely. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. I did it for them, not for you. Don Luis, the restaurant owner, approached their table with warm enthusiasm. Catalina, mi Nina Hermosa, where have you been? And you brought the fancy man. I remember you too, always holding hands, making eyes at each other like teenagers. Hola, Don Luis. ¿Cómo está la familia? Bien, bien. My grandson started kindergarten. So smart, that boy. And your little angels? How are Isabella and Esperanza? Max went very still. Don Luis knew about the twins, had probably watched them grow up during visits here. Another piece of their lives that he'd missed completely. They're wonderful, growing so fast. Catalina's voice was warm, natural. This was her world now, a place where she was known and loved for who she was, not what she could provide. They look just like their mama, Don Luis said, then glanced at Max meaningfully. Though they have very distinctive eyes, no? Very unusual color. Yes, Catalina said quietly. Very unusual. Don Luis bustled away to get the menus, leaving them alone with the weight of everything unsaid. He knows, Max said. He's known since they were babies. I used to bring them here when they were teething. The music and warm atmosphere soothed them better than anything. She traced patterns on the table with her finger. He's like a grandfather to them. He remembers their birthdays, saves extra flan for them, lets them help in the kitchen sometimes. And I'm a stranger who shares their DNA. Whose fault is that? Mine. Completely mine. He leaned forward. But I want to change that. I want to be part of their lives, part of your life if you'll let me. It's not that simple, Max. You can't just decide to be a family man when it's convenient. Children need consistency, reliability. They need someone who chooses them every day. Then let me prove I can be that person. How? He took a breath, about to make the biggest gamble of his life. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations at Cortez Global, promoting my COO to CEO. I want to be present, really present, not just financially. She stared at him in shock. Your company is your life. No, it's my job. My life is whatever I choose to prioritize. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. I choose them. I choose you if you'll give me the chance to earn that privilege. You can't just reorganize your life like a corporate restructure, Max. This isn't a business decision, isn't it? The most important business decision I'll ever make, choosing love over profit, family over empire, presence over power. Something shifted in her expression, surprise, maybe hope, quickly suppressed. Pretty words. But words are easy. Then let me prove it with actions. Let me meet them properly. Let me try to be their father. And when you get bored, when the novelty wears off and you remember how demanding children can be, what happens when the next major acquisition comes along? Then you cut me out permanently. No explanations, no second chances. But give me one opportunity to show you I can be different. As they shared pernil and plantains and rice with beans, comfort food that tasted like memory and possibility, Max found himself studying her face, cataloging the small changes for years had brought. Tiny lines around her eyes from laughter and worry. Calluses on her hands from real work instead of the soft manicures she'd maintained as his lover. A small scar on her chin he didn't remember. She was more beautiful now than she'd ever been. Beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with designer clothes or professional styling and everything to do with strength earned through struggle, wisdom gained through sacrifice. You're staring, she said without looking up. You're stunning. Don't. The word was sharp. Don't try to seduce your way back into my life. I'm not trying to seduce you. I'm trying to be honest. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to the intimate register that had once been able to melt her defenses. You were stunning. More beautiful than you were before, if that's possible. Not because of how you look, but because of who you've become. I'm not the same person. Neither am I. Aren't you? You're still wearing $1,000 suits, still commanding respect through intimidation, still trying to solve problems with money and power. Some things haven't changed, he admitted. But others have. The night you left, I worked until dawn because I couldn't stand the silence in the penthouse. Do you know what I've done every night since then? She waited. Worked until dawn because I couldn't stand the silence. 4.5 years, Catalina. 4.5 years of burying myself in deals and acquisitions because they were the only things that didn't remind me of what I'd lost. You could have called. And said what? That I was sorry? That I was wrong? You'd made it clear what you thought of my promises. He set down his fork, the food forgotten. But mostly, I was protecting myself from having to face what I'd done. From having to admit that I'd thrown away the best thing in my life for money and power that ultimately meant nothing. And now? What's changed now? I saw them. I saw what we created together, what I threw away out of fear and stupidity. I saw you as a mother, and I realized that everything I thought mattered was just noise. Distraction from what actually matters, which is love, family, being present for the people who need you, being the man you deserve, the father my daughters deserve. She studied his face, searching for deception and finding only raw vulnerability. You really mean it. I've never meant anything more in my life. She was quiet for a long time, conflict clear in her beautiful face. Finally, she spoke. One afternoon, this Saturday, 3 hours at the community center. Supervised. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. They're smart, perceptive children. They'll see right through any pretense. And if you hurt them, if you disappoint them, or make them feel unwanted, it will be the last time you see any of us. I understand. And Max? Don't come in the Lamborghini. Don't bring expensive gifts. Don't try to buy their affection. Just be real. Be human. I can do that. We'll see. As they left the restaurant, walking slowly toward the street where their cars waited, Max felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Genuine hope. It was fragile, uncertain, but real. Catalina. She turned. For what it's worth, losing you was the worst mistake of my life. Not fighting for you was the second worst. If I could go back, we can't go back. We can only go forward. Then let's go forward. Together, if you'll have me. She didn't answer immediately, but she didn't say no either. Saturday, 2 o'clock. And Max. Yes. Don't break their hearts. I won't forgive you twice. As he watched her drive away in her modest Honda, Max felt the weight of possibility and terror in equal measure. In 4 days, he would meet his daughters as their father for the first time. In 4 days, he would begin the most important campaign of his life. Saturday afternoon arrived with unseasonable warmth for late October. Max had changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on dark jeans and a simple blue button-down, clothes that felt foreign without the armor of his usual tailored suits. He'd driven his most modest car, a black BMW that still cost more than many annual salaries but at least didn't scream excess. The Riverside Community Center was a converted warehouse in Queens, its brick facade painted with cheerful murals depicting children of all ethnicities playing together. As he parked, Max could hear laughter and shouting from the playground behind the building. If you're enjoying this story of second chances and discovering what really matters in life, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We have more incredible stories coming your way. Inside, the center buzzed with activity. Children raced around gymnasium equipment while adults supervised from folding chairs along the walls. The smell of pizza and disinfectant mingled in the air, and everything felt aggressively normal in a way that made Max's expensive watch feel like a beacon of his outsider status. "Mr. Cortez?" A young woman approached with a warm smile. "I'm Rebecca Santos, the program coordinator. Catalina told me you'd be visiting today. Thank you for accommodating this." "Of course. The girls are in our art program right now. Would you like me to introduce you, or would you prefer to observe first?" Before he could answer, a familiar voice called out, "Tio Max." He turned to see Isabella racing toward him, paint smeared across her cheek and her dark curls escaping from 2 small ponytails. Behind her, Esperanza followed more cautiously, clutching a drawing to her chest. "Isabella, remember what we talked about," Catalina said, appearing from the art room. She looked tired but beautiful in worn jeans and a community center t-shirt. "This is Mr. Cortez. He's someone very important to your mama. Are you the daddy who lives far away?" Isabella asked with typical 4-year-old directness. The question hit Max like a physical blow. He knelt to her eye level, his throat suddenly tight. "Yes, sweetheart. I am. Why do you live far away?" "Because," he glanced at Catalina, who nodded encouragingly. "Because Daddy made some mistakes. Big mistakes. And I'm trying to learn how to fix them." Esperanza stepped forward shyly, still holding her drawing. "I made this for you." She handed him a crayon drawing of 4 stick figures, 2 big ones and 2 small ones, standing in front of a house with a rainbow overhead. At the bottom, in careful preschool letters, someone had helped her write, "My family." Max stared at the drawing, emotion clogging his throat. "It's beautiful, Esperanza. The most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me. Really, really." What followed were 3 hours unlike any Max had ever experienced. Isabella showed him her latest art project, a clay bowl she'd made all by myself that was lopsided and wonderful. Esperanza read him a story from her favorite book, sounding out words with careful concentration. They played on the playground equipment, Max learning to catch them at the bottom of the slide and push them on swings that had seen better days. "Higher, Daddy. Higher." Isabella shouted from her swing, the words slipping out naturally. "Careful, mi amor," Catalina called from her spot on a nearby bench. "We don't want you flying away." "I won't fly away," Isabella declared with absolute confidence. "Daddy will catch me." The trust in her voice was humbling. Max found himself making promises he'd never thought to make before. "Always, baby girl. Daddy will always catch you." During snack time, the girls chattered about everything and nothing, their friends at daycare, the stray cat they'd been feeding behind their apartment building, their upcoming Halloween costumes. Max listened with an attention he'd never given to billion-dollar negotiations, storing away every detail. "Mama says you have important work," Esperanza said, studying his face with those amber eyes so like his own. "What kind of work?" "I help people with their money. I make decisions about big companies." "Do you like it?" The question was so simple, so honest, that it took him completely off guard. I used to think I did, but I'm learning that there are more important things than work." "Like what?" "Like being here with you and your sister. Like making sure your mama doesn't have to worry about taking care of you all by herself." As their time together drew to a close, Max felt panic rising in his chest. 3 hours had passed in what felt like minutes, and he wasn't ready to let them go. "Will you come back?" Isabella asked as they walked toward the parking lot. If your mama says it's okay, I'd like to come back very much. Can you come to my birthday party next month? I'm going to be 5. Max looked at Catalina, hope and question in his expression. She was quiet for a long moment, studying his face. We'll see, she said finally. We need to talk about some things first. I understand. As they reached their cars, Esperanza tugged on his hand. Daddy? Yes, sweetheart. I love you. The words hit him like lightning. This tiny person, who'd known him for exactly 3 hours, was offering him unconditional love. He knelt and gathered her into his arms, feeling her small body fit perfectly against his chest. I love you too, Esperanza. More than you'll ever know. Isabella, not to be outdone, threw herself into the hug. I love you 3. I love you both infinity plus 1, Max said, his voice rough with emotion. After the girls had been strapped into their car seats, Catalina walked with Max to his BMW. She began, then stopped. What? That was exactly what they needed. What I needed to see. They're incredible, Catalina. You've raised incredible children. We raised incredible children, she corrected quietly. They have your eyes, your determination, your charm when you want to use it for good instead of manipulation. I want to be better. For them. For you. I can see that. Today, I saw glimpses of the man I fell in love with. The man I always hoped you could be. What happens now? She was quiet for a long moment. Now you prove that today wasn't just an act. You show up consistently. You prioritize them over your deals and your ego. You learn that being a father isn't about providing money. It's about providing presence. I can do that. Then maybe we can build something new. Not what we had before, but something better. Something real. Are you saying? I'm saying I'm willing to try. For them. And maybe for us too. 6 months later, Max kept his promise. He'd stepped back from daily operations at Cortez Global, maintaining his role as chairman but letting his incredibly capable team handle the day-to-day decisions. His net worth had actually increased as the company thrived under new leadership, but more importantly, his life had gained something no amount of money could buy. He attended every birthday party, every school play, every doctor's appointment. He learned to braid hair badly and read bedtime stories with dramatic voices that made the girls giggle. He and Catalina had dinner every Friday at Casa Valdez, sometimes as friends co-parenting, sometimes as something more tentative and hopeful. Daddy, watch this. Isabella called from the monkey bars at their neighborhood playground. She'd grown braver over the months, more confident in his presence. I'm watching, baby girl, he called back, his phone tucked away in his pocket where it belonged. Esperanza sat beside him on the bench, working on a drawing. What are you making, sweetheart? Our family, she said, showing him a much more sophisticated version of that first crayon drawing. This one showed 5 figures, herself, Isabella, Catalina, Max, and a small dog. Who's the dog? The one we're going to get when you and Mama get married again. Max's heart stopped. Who said anything about marriage? Mama did. She said maybe someday, if you keep being good. He looked across the playground to where Catalina was pushing Isabella on the swings, her laughter carrying on the afternoon breeze. She caught his eye and smiled, not the guarded expression he'd grown used to, but something warm and genuine and full of possibility. Maybe someday indeed. As he watched his daughters play, Max reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He built an empire worth billions, commanded respect from world leaders, and achieved everything he thought he wanted. But it had taken losing everything that truly mattered to understand what success actually meant. Success wasn't measured in dollars or market share or acquisition victories. Success was Isabella's hand in his as they walked to school. Success was Esperanza falling asleep in his arms during movie night. Success was Catalina looking at him with trust instead of disappointment. Success was choosing love over pride, presence over power, and family over everything else the world said should matter. The wealthy CEO who had tried to shame his ex at a fundraiser had discovered something worth more than secret twins he'd never known existed. He'd discovered the man he was always meant to be. If this story moved you, if it reminded you what really matters in life, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, it's never too late to choose love over everything else. Until next time, this is Mr. Wentworth, reminding you that the best stories are the ones where people choose to change.